Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Welcome back, fellow soccer lovers, to Soccer in 60, presented by SAC Health System, the show that brings you everything you need to know about Southern California's soccer scene and its 5 major sports teams. I'm your host for the night, Rob Halon. You can find me online at El Escudero de LA, and you can find my written work at the Sporting Tribune. Get ready for the best hour of your week. Opposite me tonight is Tim Kolach. Tim, we have a lot of soccer to talk about, and a really great guest to talk about it with in a great interview. How you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic, Rob. It's great to see you in the lead hosting chair tonight, buddy. I know that it's great for show, and I know it's great for you. It's great for me. It's going to be a great show, buddy.
Yeah, well, you know, they decided to give me a shot in the big leagues, and you know, shout out to everybody that made it happen. Yeah, so we're really excited. Like you mentioned, you know, this is the first time here that I'm in the hot seat here. So you know, you'll be Yoda, I'll be Luke, and you'll guide me through this thing here. But yeah, like I mentioned, we have a lot of good soccer to talk about here. We have that wonderful interview with Brian Dunseth that he talks about the gamut basically in Southern California soccer. I mean, he talks Galaxy, he talks LAFC, he talks Strikers, and you know what? Who better to touch on all those subjects, right? So
yeah.
But anyway,
yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, our creative director Gunnar Burnt hung out with them for, you know, a better part of an hour, and we get about a half hour of it on the show today, and it's great. And this is Gunnar, you know, mentioned to me pre-show that he was talking with Donnie back in 2019 watching the Ontario Fury game. So pretty cool, and it's a great interview. So hang tight for that one, everybody.
That's pretty thrilling. And in partnership with the Empire Strykers, you too can experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strikers. Don't miss the excitement and make every moment at Toyota Arena count. Ride with Omnitrans to your next Empire Strykers game. Tim, if you haven't taken Omnitrans, make sure to make that happen, man.
Absolutely, baby.
There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of soccer to talk about here, but one thing that we got to talk about just right off the jump is this Galaxy home loss to Seattle. I mean, you know, my beat here with the Sporting Tribune is the Galaxy, and every time it seems like they're getting a little bounce, i.e. the Leagues Cup here, where you know they came out of the group, they follow it up with a really bad game. I mean, they did it against Austin. Here they do it against Seattle, where they cough up 4 at home. I mean, your thoughts just on what went wrong? I mean, was it the defense? Was it the offense?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, and I talked with a few of my buddies about this too. And I you know, I was high on Zonka early on, and Zonka is just not playing to the standard that the team needs him to play to. If you put Yamane and Yoshida in the middle and put Nelson back out on that left side, I think that's maybe the right thing to do. But I think when you go out and you play so well in Leagues Cup, they'll all deny it, but the clear focus of this team this year is Leagues Cup, to go get the trophy and then make Champions League for next year. I think that's the focus, because you can't play Vanny Ball against the Sounders. And that's what they tried to do, and the Sounders tore them apart.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I actually don't think they would deny it at all. I mean, I mean, they've said a couple times, hey, you know, we know the league is a difficult position right now, and we're going all in for this Leagues Cup because that's a trophy that we can win. I mean, they're 3 games away from 2 games away from a final and 3 games away from a trophy. So when you look at it, you say, yes, this is the Galaxy's best shot for a trophy and for the Champions Cup, the continental competition here. And let's face it, if the Galaxy are the team that they say that they are, which is an elite team here on the continent, they have to be playing in this tournament. This is an avenue to be able to do that. However, one of their opponents might be Seattle, Tim. And and they just took a 4-0 humbling at home. I mean, and it could have been worse here. I mean, we talk a lot about this team and the not great year that they've had, but for you in this one, who let themselves down?
Well, I think it's a team effort on this one. I'm not going to cherry pick any one person because I think it was all 18 guys. I think they didn't come out to play. I think the coach had the wrong game plan. And I think what happened is when you don't have the right game plan and you try to play the way they played against maybe, Santos, and you go out and try and play that way against Seattle, you're going to get smoked because Seattle is a far better team. And you can't do
better
that.
Opposition.
Yeah, I think you have to go out and set a precedent in that first 5 minutes against Seattle. You're at home, you're coming off, the crowd's into it. And I think if you go out and take a yellow card within the first 3-4 minutes, that's going to set the tone for that game. And they didn't do it. And they got cooked 2-0 at half, 4-0 at the full time. It's kind of tough to watch that one.
Yeah, no, and you absolutely touched on it. You need to get out there and set the tone, right? And the Galaxy absolutely did not do that. In fact, Christian Roldan bossed that midfield pretty much by himself. They were tremendously physical against this Galaxy team to the point where Gabriel Peck wasn't comfortable, neither was Joseph Payne, so he found himself on the floor quite a bit. Gabriel Peck only had 3 touches in the opposition box, Tim. So, I mean, he's one of your attacking players. So there's a lot that went wrong there against Seattle. They need to find a way now to pick themselves up on their road trip to Inter Miami here this weekend, where they face off potentially against, ex-Barcelona stars, right?
Yeah, and they've got an ocean of them, right? You've got Messi, that's obviously the class of the team, but you got 3 other dudes, and you look at it and you got Suarez creeping around. You got a guy named Talasco Segovia. Oh, he only has 7 goals. I mean, holy smoke, man. I mean, these guys are all about it. So,
yeah, well, they have a tough match ahead of them. But we actually spoke to Brian Dunseth. He's our interview of the week, and he spoke about the Galaxy. He also spoke LAFC and Empire Strykers as well. So we'll go ahead and kick it to Gunnar Burnt and Brian Dunseth, Apple TV MLS Season Pass analyst and Inland Empire native.
Our guest today is one of the most trusted and most recognizable voices in American soccer broadcasting. He's a match analyst on Apple TV, MLS Season Pass, and recently called FIFA Club World Cup games for TNT Sports and DAZN. He's worked extensively for ESPN, NBC Sports, Fox Sports, and Univision. He also spent 16 seasons as the TV analyst for Real Salt Lake. Oh, and by the way, he is also a former U.S. Olympic captain and 9-year MLS veteran. We're so excited to have with us today the pride of Upland, California, Mr. Brian Dunseth. Dunny, welcome to Soccer in 60.
I appreciate it, man. It makes me wildly uncomfortable with those intros, but thank you very much. It was very kind of you.
You're not the first, so you're in good company. Let's dive right into it. Let's talk LAFC. Let's talk Galaxy for a second here. In the past few days, we saw 2 very different Galaxy teams, right? One that dismantled a fairly bad, I think it's fair to say, Santos Laguna side that had also had a couple players sent off, and then the Galaxy team that was dismantled by a Seattle team that looked superior in just about every way. What do you make of the performance against the Sounders? And do you think that coming off a fairly comfortable win over a subpar opponent could have maybe led to some complacency heading into Seattle?
Yeah, I think at this point with the LA Galaxy, what we're looking for is them manufacturing moments. And, there's a lot of data points around the world that suggest that certain teams can find moments and can continue to build upon them. And sometimes it's just hard. I mean, listen, I could use an example last season of Pep Guardiola in Manchester City, where the lack of ability to find consistency was leaving us so dumbfounded that none of us could understand what in the hell was happening. And I think we're all still waiting for the canary in the coal mine to start screaming and telling us the truth of what transpired at the end of the year. And to your point about the FIFA Club World Cup, I do the game where they smash Juve 5-2, and then they end up losing and getting knocked out by Al Hilal in a game that the first half you felt really comfortable with their performance and figured that was going to be the pathway to face PSG in the final. So as I kind of use that data point, listen, I don't think it was lost on anyone the challenges from a roster construction conversation that the LA Galaxy was going to have in 2025. I'm of the belief that I wish there was a better mechanism in place that when a team does indeed lift an MLS Cup trophy, that there's certain conditions and parameters that give a little bit more leeway. And by that, I mean, if you have an ownership group that's willing to spend anywhere between 20 and 25 million and push all of their chips in and bet heavily on their team, then I would love to see some way to alleviate the pressure of having to lose in a similar conversation to what we've seen with LAFC. And I know we'll talk about LAFC, but, I go back to that MLS Cup final when, they lose to Columbus and literally like 2 months later, 5 starters missing, 2 substitutes missing. My Cal State Fullerton pass or fail math isn't that great, but that's 7 players that played a really big part. And John Thornton, Steve Cherundolo have to reconnect the pieces of the puzzle. And unfortunately, Will and everybody involved, Greg, have had a similar issue. Now, all of this really hinges on Ricky Puig. And had Ricky Puig not gone down with that horrific knee injury against the Sounders and gutted through that 15 minutes on a torn ACL, which I still don't understand or comprehend what his level of pain tolerance must have been like to gut through that. I think it all alleviates the pressure of what this season has been. And unfortunately, after lifting that trophy and having to find themselves in moments where they're divesting of big name talent, of guys that they trust, the guys that know the system, the guys that represent the culture and the badge really, really well, well, then all of a sudden, things look different. And unfortunately, in my own experience, I've been on teams where you just can't find the type of consistency that you're used to seeing week in, week out. And it just feels like everything goes against you. And to your point, yeah, it may be a bad Santos Laguna, but it's still one of those moments where you've taken a win off of Liga MX's team. And that's important. I mean, all the optics are really, really important from a competition standpoint, from a fan base standpoint, from kind of the ethos of what the Galaxy has meant to all of us growing up in Southern California, pre-LAFC. I remember being at the Rose Bowl for the very first game against the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars in 1996. And, being a sophomore at Cal State Fullerton and realizing, holy ish, I've got a pathway potentially to play professional soccer here in the United States. And it was the Galaxy. And watching all of those cultural icons on the field. So there's pressure. I hope the players understand the pressure. I think everyone involved will understand that this is one of those years that you don't want to ever use as a reference point. But to your point about Seattle dominating them in every aspect of the game, that's also a Seattle Sounders team that beats Pumas, wins CONCACAF Champions League, qualifies for the Club World Cup, and that year doesn't make the playoffs. So we have these weird outliers. We've seen it with Toronto FC. We've seen it with Sporting Kansas City. We saw it with Seattle. We're probably seeing it now with LA Galaxy. So how do you figure out in these small data points of who doesn't quit on each other, who are the leaders within the group, ultimately moving forward, who do you need to divest of for whatever reason, and ultimately how do you re-piece together a roster that is certainly more capable than what we've seen results-wise so far in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of, you mentioned pressure. You could say that the pressure is on Wednesday. I'm going to skip right past the Miami game because we don't have Messi in that game. There's a good chance they're both going to roll out B-ish type lineups, right? They both have Leagues Cup coming up, big games in Leagues Cup. There's a lot on the line for the Galaxy, as you said, against Pachuca in a overall pretty forgettable season so far. They could get their hands on some silverware with just 3 more wins. Yeah. With what you've seen from both teams, what kind of game are you expecting on Wednesday, and what do you feel the keys to success are for the Galaxy?
Yeah, and again, I data point this because Max Barrientos and I called the game against Pachuca the other day for LAFC. And I thought LAFC was by far the more aggressor in the game up until the Ordaz elbow and how it kind of transpired. Listen, I think when we're talking about these knockout games, anything can happen, right? I mean, you talk about manufacturing moments. That's exactly what LA Galaxy did at the end of last season. And all of a sudden, even when you felt like they probably weren't the better team, when we're judging the names and the faces on the jerseys and the representation in the starting 11, they still figured out ways to beat teams to, for all intents and purposes, surprise all of us to host an MLS Cup final. In this against Pachuca, there's a couple things. I think what's really stood out to me in this tournament is that the teams that stick to their principles don't find themselves chasing the game, understand that the style of play is going to be different, understand that it's a Pachuca team that is going to try to, and I love this, I call it the Dunsethery, we'll try to agitate, we'll try to, within the dark arts, the gray lines, they will try to manipulate the opponent, manipulate the referee. So how do you keep your head in those moments and not react? Easy things like, thumbs in the ribs or stepping on toes or little tugs here and there, or a little bit of a chicken wing. All of these things are reactionary moments. And I come from a position of experience where I've reacted and almost cost the United States a spot in the Olympics during Olympic qualifying. So I understand the red mist moments, and I can see how quickly you can be so agitated that you have this out-of-body experience where you're reacting and ultimately you're punishing yourself, you're punishing your team, and you're punishing your teammates. So principles of how you want to play. Defensively, don't chase. Stay as compact as possible. Try to keep the game in front of you. Understand that set pieces and free kicks are always important assets on both sides, both offensively and defensively. And ultimately, what I love to see is there's like a moment in time when a team's really starting to feel it, right? You see a team pinging the ball around, starting to move, a little bit of swagger, a little bit of look back, a little cockiness, all of those things. And I think once you start to see that, in my humble opinion, having been on some terrible teams throughout my playing career, when you start to have those type of moments, all of a sudden it's the rising tide lifts all ships, and everybody starts to have that little bit more of self-belief as opposed to doubt. And remember, when we talk about CONCACAF Champions Cup qualifications, when we talk about qualifications for the 2029 FIFA Club World Cup, all of these things are going to be kind of the easiest pathway, understanding that the regular season's been insanely difficult. And some of the teams that nobody had on their bingo card in our predictive Western Conference standings. And this is where everyone says, like, we got receipts and call people out and all the pundits, which I always laugh at coming up here in a couple of weeks. These are the moments where, you really find out who you can trust, who you can believe in, and ultimately who's good enough to build around going forward. So the chances are there, obviously. And now it's up to LA Galaxy to show us all the data points that made us believe that they were worthy MLS Cup champions last season, because I believe those data points are there. I just don't think we're seeing it enough consistently.
Mm-hmm. Now, moving across town to the other team. I wish I had an hour with you. It's so insightful talking to you. But we got to move on to LAFC. And I'd love to look quickly at the 2-2 draw at Chicago, which left LAFC fans kind of scratching their heads, wondering, should they be happy? Should they be sad? It seemed that because of a promising performance from their new superstar, most settled on a glass half full perspective. Aside from the historic nature of the game, obviously, what do you make of the performance by LAFC as a team? Would you agree that it's somewhat encapsulated their up and down season a little bit almost?
Yeah, I think that LAFC is such an interesting team this year, because obviously with Under going down with injury, and you knew that the price tag was too much to activate the full purchase heading in the summer. By winning that game against Club America 2-1, they get $10 million. They get entrance to the FIFA Club World Cup. So grandiose ideas, and now you're on a different plane when you're talking about branding. and for being in the mix for such a short amount of time, trying to mimic the success of LA Galaxy as a global brand. I think that's always been a part of their plan, albeit do it completely different than how the LA Galaxy did. Then divesting of Dil Rosen, who comes in for the short-term loan for 5 matches. Olivier Giroud, who it never really fit. I think we all kind of understood that. He's doing fantastic at Rennes right now, and he's scoring goals. And a body up, play through a number 9 formation or tactical approach, he probably has a better statistical time in LA. There's also the conversation always about family and wife and kids and settling and adaptation. All of those things are constant conversations. I don't think it gets enough attention sometimes. And then whether it was Murillo or Marlon, you run down the laundry list of turnover. It's pretty extraordinary what we've seen from LAFC in the last 18 months. So I kind of understood that this was going to be a grind for them. The draw against Mazatlan, when they came out of that first half and David Martinez didn't have 3 or 4 goals, they put themselves in a bad spot. Ochoa would always want that goal back at the near post. You go to penalties, you end up losing. Then from that point on, it feels like, and a lot of coaches would probably feel the same way, the chances of qualifying were so slim that ultimately we saw kind of a rotation policy. But I think the benefit of Leagues Cup for Steve Cherundolo was understanding that guys like Thomas Hasal, Kenny Nielsen, thinking about Adam Saldana, thinking about Ryan Raposo, the adaptation of Chouanier, maybe realizing that you can rely a little bit more on David Martinez, where character and maturity is still a question for a young player where the sky's the limit. Nathan Ordaz's reaction against Pachuca put him in the doghouse, and rightly so, because the team suffered, but still came through. And it was understandable, the Pachuca game, if they would have just collapsed, and yet they didn't. They fought through. And then ultimately that lineup against Tigres, if anybody tells you that they thought, yeah, of course they'd win, when they saw the starting 11 from LAFC come out, you're out of your mind. You're lying to yourself, and you're lying to all of us, because that was a monster result. So as I kind of set the table for all of this, it's disappointing because, number one, couldn't be at Soldier Field because the Bears were playing that weekend. So it's out at SeatGeek. And Max and I were just talking about, like, 20 years ago, this was considered like the future of MLS. And now we look at SeatGeek Stadium and we say, ooh, too far away, it needs a ton of work. And the infrastructure is nowhere near what we see in 2025 MLS stadiums, which is just a wild kind of subtopic to think about the growth of Major League Soccer. But ultimately, I think 2 things can be true at the same time. Number one, the Chicago Fire, I think, proved, and this is the Sonny effect, Son Heung-min being involved with LAFC, they proved to themselves that they're worthy adversarials in the Eastern Conference. And it's a free hit for both sides, right? Because it's not the proverbial 6-point swing from interconference play. Number 2, for LAFC, a couple of the same issues: frailty on defensive moments on set pieces and corner kicks, transition moments in defending because of their height as a team and trying to stay connected. They're still a little bit loose. Trying to figure out, alongside Segura, is Tafari the right guy, when theoretically he was the 5th center back heading into the season. And ultimately trying to find a level of consistency with a lot of games played with how they can match teams, especially away from home, because they have not been anywhere near as consistent as a lot of us predicted they would be this season. But the Son Heung-min effect was immediate. With 30 minutes remaining, you could see that he and Denny Bouanga were already instantaneously trying to intermingle and connect and combine. It was interesting. He took off David Martinez, and he'd had a lot of minutes in his legs, but he threw Nathan Ordaz wide when Nathan Ordaz has been playing through the middle for the better part of this season. And now with Ebobisse going down, you just wonder, with that extra DP spot and U22 spot, if they're going to continue to swing in the market. Because I think we all kind of expected, with $26 million sent to Spurs, that we were like, okay, LAFC's probably done in the window when they break the transfer record. But that's not the case from John Thornton, or at least that's what he said publicly. So overall, I would say that the 2-2 draw, and by the way, great recovery defending from Jonathan Dean. If he doesn't make that recovery tackle, Sonny probably has the game winner in the 88th minute. Instead, honors even, point split. I would say more disappointing for Chicago because I said in the broadcast in the final 15 minutes, this is when we learn if Chicago's really a serious contender in the Eastern Conference, because they have to close games out like this. And instead, they give up the game-tying goal in the transition moment with a referee that was way behind the play. They could have made it 3-1. Instead, VAR intervenes, and they have the opportunity to make it 2-2. For LAFC, what I loved about Sonny post-match was that he was, and you could see him already kind of trying to move pieces around. You can see his captain leadership. You can see his explosiveness, the combination play, the burst of pace, all of those things. He's got the intelligence. There's a lot of boxes that he checks. And that's not even off the field, because that's a juggernaut unto itself. But what I liked was that he was setting the tone and saying, yeah, we got the point, but we're not happy about it. We want the full 3 points. Every game we need to have the full 3 points. And by the way, I'm going to make sure I'm ready from the opening whistle on the road at New England in a week's time. I just think that creates a cultural moment where it's not just a guy like Hugo Lloris. You know, now you've got another guy further up the field that's saying, like, all right, come on, follow me, boys. I'll lead you. And Denny Bouanga's got to be stoked, understanding that he's not the only person that the pressure's on to score goals. Now there's someone to alleviate, pull attention to. And now I think he's going to have even more time and space on that left-hand side, as immediately center backs are going to start to draw their attention to Sonny's movement, as opposed to, hey, let me slide a little bit. Left-sided center back plays more right side. Right-side center back almost doubles up with the right back. And then we can kind of shield Bouanga as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Love having you on. I barely have to ask any questions. You answered all my Sunday questions that I had, so I don't have to write any questions when you come on. Let me just ask you one more LAFC question real quick. Just the look ahead. New England is next for LAFC. The Revs, come Saturday, the Revs will have played one game, and I think I'm right about this. Will have played one game in 23 days.
Wow.
So the complete opposite of LAFC's heavily congested schedule. Last week, New England beat DC 2-0, snapping a 3-game losing streak, that included 2 home defeats, one of those to a fairly poor Montreal side. I think it's fair to say the Revs are pretty disappointed with their season. What would you like to see from LAFC heading into a game against such a quote-unquote struggling opponent?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been the same story for the New England Revolution since the departure of Bruce Arena, right? And Caleb Porter has turned over this roster and tried to divest of as many people that were, and I say this respectfully, Bruceites, right? Like guys that really, truly believed in Bruce. And there's a lot of people around this league that believe in Bruce Arena. You know, Carlos Gil, without a shadow of a doubt, statistically proven to be one of the most dynamic players in the league. We're still looking for consistency of performance. I was always of the belief, having played at Real Salt Lake in the very first year up at Rice-Eccles Stadium at the University of Utah, that there is a significant advantage of playing on artificial surface because psychologically players aren't looking forward to the game. I think there's ways that you can take 3 points off a team before they even leave the tunnel and step onto the field. You understand the bounces, you understand the movement, you understand the weight of the pass. Every player in the modern game has grown up playing on this type of surface at some point in their career. So there's no excuse. I think it's a long flight. We're all acutely aware. My first team was New England Revolution. I was a kid from Upland, California, leaving Cal State Fullerton. That's a hell of a flight. We were all over the place. And back in the day where you were traveling to every single team, you had to change your mindset. You had to change everything you're doing, from how the times that you're eating, how much liquid you're getting in your body, how much sleep, we used to change our watches to East Coast time or to West Coast time when we were flying, just to get ourselves mentally prepared. Shows you how old I am. And yeah, all of these things kind of matter. So for LAFC, it's not lost on them that, and I talked to Steve Cherundolo, I talked to John Thorrington this morning on our Sirius XM show. It's not lost on them where they're at in a similar conversation to Inter Miami. It's also not lost on them with games in hand, that we kind of equate games in hand with automatic points. And that's not the case. There's no God-given right that you step on the field from a competition standpoint and just gifted those 3 points. So the challenges are what the challenges are. And Chicago away, New England away, FC Dallas at home. I believe it's San Diego at home. And then I believe it's at Real Salt Lake and it's away somewhere else, maybe San Jose. So, 5 of the 6 games they're on the road. This is also a byproduct of a heavy back schedule because of FIFA Club World Cup and having to reschedule a bunch of games. So there's going to be midweek action. There's going to be heavy legs. That's, I think, in all accounts, that's one of the reasons why you really can't afford to think too far ahead. And so what I'm looking for is, honestly, the strength of the starting 11 that Steve Cherundolo is leaning into these games. Is their rotation policy? And the one benefit from Leagues Cup is I think he learned that he could trust guys a little bit more in these moments and not necessarily drop the standard. I think we all kind of predictively know what the starting 11 looks like for LAFC when they're full strength. But as importantly, and Ziggy Schmidt always used to tell me this, and I love referencing him, rest in peace, every opportunity I get. He always used to say, from a substitution standpoint, don't tell me who to bring on. Tell me who to take off. How does that make my team better? How do I win a game? How do I close a game out? Because we all know there's assets on the bench that are immediate technical upgrades, but that doesn't always keep you, I would say, in the right balance necessary for whatever the result you're going for.
Mm-hmm. So while I have you, I'd just be remiss not to ask you about the professional indoor team from your home region, Southern California's Inland Empire. The Empire Strykers are famously very active in the community. Earlier this month, they held a free youth camp for over 2,000 kids with Mexican star Marco Fabian, many of his teammates among the coaches. Knowing how many kids in the area are 50, 60, 70 plus miles away from a pro outdoor team, what's your sense of the importance of having players to aspire you and a team to support in your own backyard?
I've been thinking about this for a while, and being a kid that grew up in Upland, went to Damien High School, went to Cal State Fullerton, played in all of the semi-pro type of leagues, every opportunity I got, from the beer leagues at the weekends to, trying to pick up as many pickup games as possible, and quite a bit. I mean, from Junior Gonzalez and Carlos Bocanegra and Nicky Ramondo and all these guys playing at the Upland Indoor Center during off-season, to playing in Rancho at the indoor place. And unfortunately, I have not yet been able, because of my schedule and living now in Salt Lake City, be able to go down and see the Strikers in person. I've had plenty of invites. I just could never make it. The one thing I will always say is that there's never enough of us. There's never enough of us that believe in the game, that believe in giving back, and understand that the power of our words have a tremendous effect on the youth and the environment. I'm in real time paying significant sums of money. I'm all in for my 3 boys in Salt Lake City, Utah, for pretty high level soccer. And it's around $25,000 per year is what I'm paying right now. And that's unsustainable. It just really is. I've had conversations with a lot of DOCs and a lot of leaders up here to try to help them understand that we're missing out on a tremendous amount of talented young players that just can't survive in the physical landscape that is spending money and trying to be at the highest level of club soccer. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about being, and I would equate this to the early days of Major League Soccer, because I was July 4th, 1997 at the Rose Bowl, New England Revolution against the LA Galaxy. Here's how I age myself. 98 Degrees sang the national anthem and did the halftime show. So that's how old I am. But I can vividly remember going to the Polo Grounds in San Diego and watching DC United and the LA Galaxy train. I can remember going to UC Irvine and watching the MLS tryouts, where it was guys like Danny Pena and Brian McBride in the tryouts. I can remember my coach, Clay Coyman, who coached me at Upland Celtic, going and watching him play for either Cal Surf or playing for the LA Lasers indoors. I can remember Jerry Laterza and the salsa down at Cal State Fullerton and dreaming about one day being a pro. These are incredible moments. And whether it's Marco Fabian utilizing his name and experience and understanding what that brings, or it's the guys that are going out and doing these little camps and going to the schools and introducing kids. And in these moments, having connectivity. I mean, I can't tell you, to this day, I have people, whether it's in Boston or Columbus, in Southern California, or here in Salt Lake City, that'll come up to me, and they're grown-ass adults, and they'll be like, dude, you came to my school. Or, man, I played soccer with you at a park. Or, I can't believe you gave me an autograph at Rice Eccles Stadium, back in 2005. All of these things matter, because even if they don't make it as pros, which we all aspire for our kids to be the next Messi, which is ludicrous, but it's just how we want our kids to dream big. Within that, we also want them to love the game. And what I always tell my kids, at the end of the day, if on a Thursday night and you're 25 years old and you're playing with your buddies on a men's league and you're watching soccer on the weekends, then I've transmitted my love for the game. And I think all of these things are incredible. So credit to everybody involved. In that region, that 909, 951 region, it'll always be a special place in my heart. And I'm happy to hear that they're doing all the dirty work, because what gets lost in this conversation is it's easy not to do it. It's easy to think that I just got to be a pro. I think it's really important to understand DNA wise that you're creating legacy moments for these kids. And it's awesome to hear.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can say that you finally did it. I got goosebumps during an answer from one of our guests. So that happened. Such a joy to have you on today. And we'll say, for full disclosure, real quick, all those invites to the Strikers that you've gotten, they came from me. Most of them, I would assume. And there'll be more coming, because we'd love to have you out one day at a game. I know it'll happen 2, 3, 4, 5 years from today. One day it'll happen. And that'll
bring my family. We'll be there, man. I promise you, we'll be there.
There we go. It'll be a fantastic day, but it's been amazing having you on. Thank you so much for the excellent insight and for your time. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Tim, what a wonderful interview from a great source, right?
Yeah, fantastic. Unbelievable source on MESL, on everybody. Is incredible.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that I enjoyed most about the interview is how Dunny, who, as I mentioned at the top of the show, is an IE native, talking about how important it is for local youth to see local soccer heroes in their own backyard, right? The ability to just go right down the street and see somebody like Marco Fabian in their own backyard.
Yeah, it's amazing when he can talk about that, where he can talk about all these different guys. And then you can see these professional athletes with the Empire Strykers, right? And you can see them at the game. They give autographs after the game. And then you go back just a couple of weeks ago with the largest soccer camp in the country this summer, it sounds like, that was put on for free by the entire Inland Empire. The number of sponsors that were out there, ESPN was out there broadcasting live. Jeff Burham, the managing partner of the Empire Strykers, was out there every day. And when you have players like Marco Fabian, you have Coach Obasi out there, you have Justin Stinson, that are just studs in the indoor game. And, Marco played in 2 World Cups. Holy smokes. You get guys like out there coaching you. I mean, if I was a little kid and I was 5 and I met Marco Fabian, I actually knew who he was. Man, that's an impression that's going to last me a lifetime.
Yeah, and then you have, players like Marco Fabian, who, was in World Cup, but then you have local heroes like Brian Orozco, who, he's at a Riverside, and midfielder Randy Martinez, who's at a Fontana, Harold Hansen, who's from Ontario, right there in the backyard, like I said, right there, right down the street. So, he came back home after playing for Portland Timbers 2 for a couple of years, and now he's with the Strikers again. And it's no secret that when you feel at home, you play well. And all 3 of these players had breakout seasons in 2024 and 2025. So that just goes to show you, you go back home, you get to play in front of your home crowd, be a hero to some kids out there, and who knows where the next crop of heroes might come out of, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll get into it in the Orange County section part of the show, but there's a local kid that's the first kid signed out of Irvine that plays for Orange County. But You're right. I mean, we talked to Angel City, and they just signed a local player. One of their goalkeepers came back on. She was a guest on the show a few weeks ago. She wanted to play at home, and that's a big difference, right? So when you play for your hometown and you can become a hometown hero, I mean, look at Dunny. Dunny played at Cal State Fullerton. Go Titans. I'm one of them too. So, and the Strykers are making this possible. The amount of community service that the Strykers do is mind-boggling. And if the rest of the league, the rest of the city of, Inland Empire, Los Angeles, if the rest of these other teams don't follow suit, they're missing a huge opportunity.
Yeah, no, definitely. The opportunity to engage with these kids and make young soccer stars and have those meaningful interactions, is wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and switch on over here to ACFC, who is still looking for that first win, Tim. They haven't won in 7 matches, and I shouldn't say first win. They are 4-4-7, but they're looking for their first win in 7. They can't quite get it right. What seems to be the problem under this new coach?
Yeah, the new regime is alive and well, but it just isn't showing up on the scoreboard. But what you are seeing, at least not in the win column, right? They did get a goal at the death by Alana Kennedy off of a beautiful service in by Svendis Johnsdottir. But what they're trying to figure out is just who they are, right? With Coach Alex Strauss coming in middle of the season, doesn't get in, then they have a month off to try and figure this out. I think the reality is that what's going on with them is they just don't have their identity yet. Coach Strauss is coming in. He's going to give them identity. He's bringing in players that he knows from overseas over here, bringing them back home in some cases. And I think what's really, truly going to happen is Angel City is going to take them a year to figure this out. And whether or not that is the best thing we talk about it on the show all the time. If you're not first, you're last here in LA. Is that going to be good enough under this new regime to potentially not make the playoffs, right? I mean, they get a good solid draw against San Diego the other day, extra time goal to get the draw. But Rob, I mean, let's discuss this a little deeper. Is it okay for Angel City not to make the playoffs this year?
Well, let's click out for a second and
sure
look at this team and look at this team under this new coach. There's always going to be a betting in period, right? So what you want to see as a coach is a response, right? And this game against San Diego looked all but lost. I mean, you have what you think is a game winner by Mackenzie Robb in the 86th minute by the San Diego Wave, but then like you said, Kennedy pops up and gets the draw there in injury time, so he gets that response, and that's how you start little runs, right? Building blocks. You get that moment where you say, hey, we didn't roll over, we didn't give up, we got the point against our rival, because this is a California rivalry match. So we didn't give them the chance to lord it over us, right? Or say, hey, we beat you guys. We stole a point, and so he gets that response. And now what they got to do is go out there and get a win. I mean, Utah, the Royals are a big opportunity. I mean, ACFC hasn't been playing great, but the Royals, no disrespect to them, have been playing even a little bit worse. So they're in last place, and they traded away their best player, Ali Centner. So I mean, they're even more in dire straits. It's no coincidence that the last Angel City win was against this Utah team on May 9th, which was a 2-0 win. So
yeah,
when you say, is it okay that they're not going to make the playoffs and that they're going to have to wait a year? Well, it could be okay if you're laying the groundwork for something special, right?
Right.
If you're taking this time to, even though you're copying L's every now and again, you're developing young players, you're developing that philosophy that you want, and you're getting occasional results, hopefully starting against Utah here pretty soon, then yes, it is okay. But ideally, you want to see this team win as many games as they can.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right. You want to see that response. You want to see the growth of these players, because on more than one occasion, Angel City is fielding the youngest, the second or third youngest team in the league, right? And you still have a bunch of teenagers running around that are 16, 17, 19 years old. You got most of these of the women are 22, 23. And you do want to see that progression. You want to see them get better. You want to see them play better as a team. While they still may lose, like you mentioned, you do want to see them starting to play better. My biggest question, and I believe that they're going to get the win against Utah this weekend. How is Allie Riley going to feel? How is Kristen Press going to feel? Because it's potentially their last season in NWSL. I mean, Kristen Press, there's been all kinds of things going back and forth with her agent and stuff like that. And Nina Kiefer and I talked about it earlier this season, that there's the potential that, she'll never start again. And there's also the potential that she's maybe just a 30-minute a night player. So when that happens, what is she going to do? Is this really her last hurrah? What kind of backlash is the team going to see if there's no real true progression by some of the younger players?
Yeah, it's unfortunate if this is in fact their last hurrah, that they go out in a playoff-less season. You always want to see these titans of the game. And let's face it, these two players were monumental for the women's game here in the United States. Yeah, you want to see them right off into the sunset with a trophy or two, right? And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It reminds me a lot of when Kobe was playing with starting five of Robert Sacre and stuff like that. He's like, you're just like, man, it's kind of sad what's happening here. But no disrespect to any of the players at Angel City FC. What I'm trying to say is that these players don't have the experience of a Kobe, or in this case, a Kristen Press or an Allie Riley. So you would like to see them go out on a high. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, and the hope is that they do start to progress with, a win against Utah this weekend would make a big deal, push them a lot towards that. And then if they can kind of keep some of that momentum going, beaten in a couple of games, then take a loss, go unbeaten a couple more games, couple of wins. But they're not that far out of the playoffs, so it's not like it can't happen, right?
Two games at home coming up as well.
Yeah.
After Utah.
And you can get those games. You get a big win at Utah, and then you come home for a couple of games, the fans will really get behind you, and then they'll really start to see that progression with Coach Strauss. So, and then
and that's what they need, right? They need that 12th man. They need that belief. Like you said, they're not that far from the playoffs. If you catch a little of that playoff magic, anything's possible.
Yeah. And so with that, Rob, let's move over to Orange County, my favorite guys, my shirt of record for the night. Hey. We talked about this on the show last week, and this road trip out to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds along the riverside there. And if you haven't seen the stadium, you got to see it just for the river. The Monongahela runs
pictures.
Right along the sideline, basically. It is incredible. Well, this was a very big win. You saw a lot of the speed that we've been talking about Orange County lately with Mohamedou War and Chris Hagart and Ethan Zubak. And Ethan Zubak has found his groove, man. He is playing amazing. And he gets this great goal off of a beautiful set piece. Puts it into the net, gets a nice header, and it's 1-0, and they carry that 1-0 lead into halftime. And then, of course, what Pittsburgh does is Pittsburgh does what they do. They've got, while it is a 3-5-2 structure that they had to start the game, they move in and out of that 3-5-2. They'll push as many as 4 people to that forward line and still run a 3-2-4, right, along that back line, and 3-3-4, and have the 4 be the actual forwards. And that's what kills teams with against Pittsburgh is you don't know how to play against that. And Orange County started out with a 4-2-3-1 with Zubac playing up top. And so they'll fold back down into a 4-4-2 and things like that. But the big thing with Orange County is that they've got to continue to use their speed. They got to continue to do that because they are going to put some people, they're just going to take them out with the speed. Mohamedou War is the fastest guy in the league. And when Orange County can get these guys to do what they do best, the playoffs are not only are they in reach, they are potentially shooting for a top 4 in the Western Conference, Rob. And it is fun to watch these guys play. We can get down on the field with them. You can watch these guys play. It's an intimate setting inside the Champ down in Irvine. And it's just really, really a fun time to go watch these guys, Rob. So you should come down, hang out with me, and we'll go and watch one of these games.
I thought you would never ask. I'll get down there and we'll certainly take in a game. I haven't been to an Orange County game before, so I know my good friend Eli Lester out there. He is always talking about Orange County and how wonderful and fun that is. And now that I have the official Tim invite, I mean, it's, hey, let me know. I'll bring the carne asada. You go ahead.
Beautiful, my friend. We can go have we might have you can stay with the michelada, but I'll stay with the Modelo, and we can kind of hang out and enjoy ourselves.
Let's go. So what does Orange County have coming up? Like who are they playing next that we can go ahead and plan this event around?
Exactly. So they play this weekend. They play Saturday night at 6:00 local time because the game is at Colorado, but they will be playing the Colorado Switchbacks. And we know the Orange County guys know Colorado very, very well because of what was going on last season with these guys. Colorado did take them out in the playoffs last season. And so this is a big game for Orange County to come in and take these guys out. And I know that it's in Colorado, but Orange County has played reasonably well on the road. I mean, they got this big draw right against Pittsburgh, and they're going to go in fired up because they've been on a bit of a burn lately. They're burning up the league. And so if the Orange County guys can continue this forward and continue to have strong play by some of these guys like Ciata and some of these other guys, it's going to be really cool. And then just before we check out of Orange County, there has been a very big signing. And this is what I mentioned at the top of the show, is that Orange County has signed the very first guy out of Irvine. And it's a guy named Tyson Espy. And this guy is an absolute stud. He plays for the under-16 national team. He's been great. He's been brought up through Orange County's acclaimed Next Wave development program, and he has played for the LAFC Academy. This guy is going to be a very big stud for a very, very long time. So, and with that, that's the Orange County segment, Rob.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and check out Greater LA's Best 11.
Perfect. And hey, Rob, all right, you mentioned it, LA's Best 11 as thought of by us and only us. And if you don't like it, too bad. We've got Novak Mitrovic as your goalkeeper for the LA Galaxy against Santos Laguna. We've got defenders, Mauricio Cuevas. We've got Maya Yoshida. We've got Evelyn Shores. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. We've got Alana Kennedy.
Game winner.
Right? And then we've got midfielders, Svendis Jane Johnsdaughter. We've got Stephen Kelly of Orange County. We've got Diego Fagundes for Galaxy. We've got forwards, Mateus Nascimento, Joseph Paintsill for the Galaxy, and then Denny Bawanga for LAFC against Chicago. This was a good list, man. Rob, what do you think of it?
You know, I don't really have any notes on this one. I mean, Mauricio Cuevas was fantastic against Santos Laguna, as was Maya Yoshida. And we both, I mean, heard Evelyn Short's name, and we both said fantastic. I mean, she was amazing against San Diego. Yeah, like I said, no notes here. I mean, this is a good list. I mean, you could put this list out and probably win a lot of games here.
Yeah, I mean, I like it too. The only I'd say we want to put Ethan Zubak into the lineup too, but you know, he's had a great run of form. But I do tell you, Denis Bouanga has been playing amazing the entire season, and Mateus Nascimento played really, really well for the Galaxy against Laguna. And I don't have a whole lot of qualms about this one. Normally we fight and complain and get after each other, but these things are okay. This is a good list this week.
You know, the only one that I would probably say that is missing is LAFC's newest signing, right? I mean, he makes just a little player by the name of Son, right?
Right.
Sonny comes in, subs in about the 60th minute and makes an instant impact, right? He wins the penalty that then Denis Bouanga puts away to tie this game there in Chicago, which is, you know, that 2-2 draw. But there's no acclimation period for Sonny. He comes in and immediately contributes to his team. So that's probably my big miss here, but you know, this is a strong team. Like, who do you take out of this one to include him, you know?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I did like the fact that Sonny, you know, 8 minutes into his debut comes in, like you said, 60th, 61st minute, and then the 68th, he earns that penalty, and he's just, you know, burns past those guys. But you can't take anybody out. I mean, I'd like to say Ethan Zubak, but here the deal is, I mean, you can't take anybody out of this list. It's too good, right? And we only have one goalkeeper too. You know, there's some standout goalkeeping, right? But default, you got to go to the guy that put up a goose egg against Laguna and Novak Mitrovic, right?
Right. But a really big shutout. I mean, the Galaxy were looking for the goal difference there in that match, and Novak Mitrovic makes it possible for them to achieve that by getting the shutout. And you know, like I mentioned, I mean, you love to see this hometown kid, South Central bred, Mauricio Cuevas, coming in, getting a couple starts in place of Mickey Yamane, and right here he's wearing the captain's armband here in LA's Best 11 this week for a couple of assists there in that Santos Laguna. He could have had a couple more there, Tim. So he probably could have walked away with 4 or 5. So that's LA's Best 11, right?
Yeah, this is a good one, man. Not a whole lot of arguments on this one. And the competition was very strong this week. So we weaseled out a couple of people that just couldn't step up. So, hey, Rob, thanks for joining me today. And what do we got for the outro, buddy?
Well, what do we have for the outro? Well, I want to say thank you to you, Tim, for guiding me through this Soccer in 60 journey here on my first time hosting this podcast. And since we're speaking about this podcast, thank you everyone for tuning in. Go ahead, please subscribe, like, and share this podcast with everyone you love. And if you need a quick primer on LA soccer scene, this is the place for you. Hopefully you had a wonderful time. Soccer in 60 presented by SAC Health System. I think that's it for us.
That's it, baby. Thanks, SAC Health System. And thank you, everybody. And we'll catch you next week.
Bye-bye now.